Thank you for joining us. For those of you that did join last night, we did have some audio problems. Little gremlins snuck in through the web, however they do, and they stole our voices.
Yeah, they did.
So for those of you that did join, I just wanted to get a bit of a recap on what happened last night. We're just going to take you through the presentation, but ultimately, please contact us. So we started off the presentation just by introducing ourselves, which Paul is more than happy to do.
I'm Paul Dizon. I'm the founder and managing director of Dizon Associates. We are an immigration and international recruitment firm based in Melbourne, and we have an extension of our branch here in Cape Town.
So for this specific recruitment drive, we are working with Talent Recruit Global. They, as you can hear in their name, they are a global recruitment firm. They do specialize in assisting South Africans or individuals from Southern Africa looking for employment globally. So with this drive, they are specifically assisting us with some roles that we have available in Australia.
So Australia is currently experiencing a skill shortage, particularly in the trades industries. So this is a national shortage, and it's largely got to do with the infrastructure and the development of urbanisation across the country. And so if you are in a role that is in the trades and construction industries, then your skills and experience would certainly benefit the employers in Australia.
Some of the employers that we have are based in the automotive industry. They are based in agriculture and then also in construction. So while we are focused on these specific roles currently, that is not to say that we don't recruit outside of those roles, or not to say that there are not going to be more roles in the future. Just currently we are focused on these, and this gives us a good example as to what the requirements look like and what these particular employers are offering in terms of incentives.
Yeah.
Incentives. I think that's the best way of saying it. Okay. So some of the roles that we have available are in particular car mechanics, so automotive technicians, panel beaters, piggery attendants, and then also carpenter positions. Within those industries, there will be more, like I mentioned earlier, but these are also national roles, so multiple roles across the country, okay?
And also please keep in mind that we do have our recruitment team in Australia that continues to develop and build the portfolios of employers. And so it's important that you do provide us with your resumes and your credentials to give yourselves an opportunity to be matched with these employers.
Yeah. Now, these employers that we have, they are offering sponsorship in terms of the visa. Now, that doesn't mean that it is financial sponsorship. When it comes to a job offer, it needs to be a sponsored role, because the employer needs to essentially go to government and say that they need you as an employee. They are willing to assist you obtain the working rights needed so that you can work for them. Okay. Aside from that, there are some incentives that they are willing to assist with, such as covering the cost of skill assessment, a one-way flight, as well as initial accommodation to help you get settled in.
Recruitment process, there's a certain structured way in which we do that. So we would obtain your resume, and then our internal team in South Africa as well as Australia, they go through a couple of initial interviews to look at your intentions and objectives of moving to Australia. But then our Australian team also do an interview that discusses the technical skills and scenarios and the equipment that you use. And then from there, we put that forward, provided that you meet the criteria for the employer, we put you forward as a recommendation to the employer. And the employer from there arranges an interview with you. In that interview, the employer will ask some specific questions around your skill sets, your experience, your safety. Safety is a very important aspect in the Australian workplace. So it's very important that you do address and are able to explain the safety procedures around the work that you do. And so once that interview with the employer is completed, then they'll make a decision as to whether a job offer will be presented to you. So our team will then contact you to let you know whether you've been successful in that interview, and then a job offer will then be issued from there. Once a job offer is completed, we then pass it on to the immigration team, who then undertake the application process for your sponsorship.
So when we do start the process and you have contact with our initial team that will screen your application, it's important at that point to go through any questions you have about migration in general, okay? We do need to understand, do you have a family? What are your short-term needs? What are your long-term goals? Are there any kinds of requirements from your side in terms of a potential plan you have for your career? It's very important at this point for you to disclose all sorts of concerns that you may have, as we don't want to get to the interview stage and have you asking an employer certain questions around migration and visas and things like that, or bringing up kind of concerns that may have been earlier addressed, okay? It's important that at this stage we also know that your family is aware. If you do have a family, they're aware of your intentions to work abroad, and that the conversations that need to happen in a family context happen then. Now, when you are looking at this process, many of you would have heard and known of a skill assessment. A skill assessment is essentially a process that happens whereby an Australian registered trade organization reviews the skills you have from outside of Australia, and they confirm that it meets the standards within the country. This is important because it safeguards employers to see that you do really have the skills you claim to have, as well as it is a requirement that the government would like to see on processing the visa. If you do not have a skill assessment, it doesn't matter how great you are and how amazing of a fit you are for an employment opportunity. If an employer is not willing to wait or assist you with that skill assessment, we cannot proceed with the visa application, even if you have a formal job offer. Okay. Now, when we are looking at why skill assessment is important in other terms, is because it essentially opens up pathways to you, which are the employment or employer-sponsored pathway, as well as general skilled migration. It's important that if you are in a position to get your skill assessment done, that you do so because of the timelines associated to getting yourself assessed. So with regards to the skill assessment, it can take anywhere between 8 to 10 months, and that doesn't include the visa processing. Now, we need to have the skill assessment completed first before we can proceed with any immigration work. So as you can see, recruitment isn't isolated to just a job offer. There are a lot of moving pieces around the application. Okay. Employers will often choose to select candidates who have had their skills assessed. So seeing that we do have candidates, or seeing that we do have employers that are offering financial assistance for the skill assessment, you can see how willing and wanting they are to have certain skill sets in certain individuals. Okay. The English test is also a requirement. It's not something that I often tell people to start your application with, or if you're considering a move, you're considering working in Australia, that the English test is something to first be ticked off on the list, as there are certain exemptions that may apply. It is not the English test that is going to hinder you from securing employment.
The key thing about skills assessment is around documentation and evidence. There are two parts to the skills assessment. The first part is an evaluation of your paperwork. So please ensure that you have sufficient documentation and evidence to demonstrate what you can do and to prove that you have been in full-time employment. Evidence also includes videos and photographs of your work. So if you don't have a portfolio of that information, of that evidence, please ensure that you start taking pictures and videos of the work that you do. The second part to a skills assessment is a technical interview, in which an Australian organisation or the assessment body will have an online video with you and ask specific technical questions around the skills that you have.
So now it's really about the next steps and where to start if this is something that you are considering a viable option for yourself, if you're single, for your family, if you do have a family. And most importantly, it starts off with understanding your goals, understanding what it is that you want and what it is that you have right now, what is feasible and what is possible. Okay. Secondly, most importantly, I think, speak to your family. Let them know your intentions, your plans, get their feedback. Often South Africans are very close-knit in terms of family circles, so have those conversations first, okay? From that point, you then reach out to us at Dizon Associates or to Talent Recruit Global to have those initial conversations around pre-screening, okay? With that done, start getting your documentation ready and start preparing for your English test if you're not exempt for it.